project that I've been working on in ONTRAPORT for a little while now. It's a really involved project. It's got a lot of pieces in it, a lot of customization, and ONTRAPORT has really been a superstar for what this client wants to do. So let me just run you through, hopefully fairly quickly, how their project, how their campaigns and automations are set up, and how it sort of works for their business. So the first thing we need to understand is that this client, they have a very complicated sales process. They have about 20 steps that they have to take the client through before they purchase the product. And previously, that was all manual follow-ups, all lots of manual stuff, and clients were just getting dropped. They were getting lost. They were getting forgotten. They were, not moving down through the sales funnel. And now the client has a system that is going to automatically move the user through the sales funnel, notify the client, my client, when that user gets stuck in the sales funnel, and they're going to help that user move down the process towards the sale. And that's exactly what ONTRAPORT's built for. So the first thing that we're going to have a look at is here we've set up the boards so that the client can just log into here. They can see exactly where all their different clients are. Now this only has my test client at the moment because we're just about to launch. Next week, hopefully, we'll have this launched. But you can see the client gets can basically see where all the different users are in their Salesforce funnel. So they could see, oh, we've got all these prospects here. Let's reach out to the prospects and get them to schedule an initial call because we want more clients in the back end of the funnel. Or all our clients are stuck in this committed stage. How do we move them onto the soundbite calls? And what they can do is they can drill down into, say, the committed stage and say, well, we've got 10 clients in this committed stage, but where are they in that process? Well, here I've got my Mitch test contact. We're awaiting payment from that client. So let's follow up with them on a call. Let's give them a call, see if they can pay for their deposit now via credit card, etc. Or, we're waiting on them for scheduling the next call, their secondary call with us. So let's move them through the process. And just at a glance, this client can see where all their clients, all their customers are, what needs to happen for that customer to move on to the next stage. And that is extremely powerful for this client. Now, for each stage of this, there's a campaign. There's about 6 different campaigns that correlate for all the primary stages. So they need to schedule their initial call. They have their initial consult, which is their first call. Then they move on to being committed. Then after they're committed, they go into their secondary calls. And then we have their pre-session, which is basically the last stage. And then we've got a step here called the red alerts, which, because the client needs certain things to happen by certain times, we created a campaign which is kind of like their red alert, their D-Day. This needs to happen by this day. If it doesn't, you need to follow up manually with the client so that they don't miss out on their dates for making these purchases and having these other meetings towards their main purchase. So let's have a look at one of these campaigns that we've got set up because they're quite involved. You can see here in the right-hand side that we've got quite a lot of steps. Let me just sort of glance over this because we've got a lot of steps here. All of this. There's probably about 200 steps in this one campaign. And remember, we've got about 6 of these. So there's maybe 1,200 steps or so, 1,000 steps all up to get this workflow automated for the client. So let's just see. So this user, they start the primary stage. They're in the primary stage soundbites. Then they move down. We're updating the secondary stage, so we know where they are in the sales funnel. Then we're sending them some emails. We're assigning some tasks. We're checking to see were they referred from someone. Yes, they were. So then we assign a referral task, so we can follow up manually with that referral. Then we're waiting for a task to be completed before we move on to the next stage in the sales funnel. And that's important because we don't want to bombard the user, the customer, with things to do. And we also don't want to bombard our admin team with things to do before the customer has done something that they need to do. So there's no point assigning tasks and notifying people if the customer hasn't moved up to that stage in the process yet. So we've got these goals and weights that basically time these things out. Now we've also got webhooks, and the webhooks are used to send SMSs and to also pre-fill internal forms and do a whole heap of really amazing things for this client. So this particular webhook is used to send an SMS. Now, why aren't we just sending an SMS via ONTRAPORT's built-in SMS text marketing feature? Well, that has some limitations to it. We can only send SMSs and we can't reply to a reply that we get. So yes, our users can reply to us, but we can't then reply and start a conversation, a two-way chat with that user. And that's really something that this client really wanted because they've got a one-on-one conversation with that customer. It's not like they're buying a chair and they've got thousands of people buying chairs. This is a high-ticket product, a high-ticket item, and each purchase is worth around $5,000 to maybe $10,000 per customer. So we need to have this one-to-one conversation with the customers and always have our channels open. So ONTRAPORT's built-in text marketing didn't do that for us. So what we've done is we're using webhooks, and then we're sending the text messaging via a system called Text Magic. And that allows us to have two-way conversations with the user. Also has a really great phone app that we can just have on our phone all the time. The text messages get sent from our number, replies get sent to our number, and we can start this conversation directly from our mobile phone, or our team can keep tabs on the conversation via the app, or we can assign their phone numbers to be used instead of ours, etc. So that's really powerful, and we've got a whole heap of webhooks here with different messages going out at different times, and some of these are even more powerful because what we're doing is we're adding in URL link shorteners. So for this particular one, we're sending in the SMS message, we're sending a little Zapier shortened link for the direct Google Maps address of wherever this person needs to go for their makeup. And so we've personalized that address, and then we're shortening it down so that it's only about 10 characters in the SMS, and then they can click it. It opens up in Google Maps on their phone, and they can just click directions and head to it when the time is ready. So that's really powerful for this client. Now we're also shortening some other URLs. This one here, we're shortening a reschedule link. So we're sending the customer back to a booking page, but rather than having them have to fill in all that information again, we're using the information we've got on their file, and we're pre-filling that form for them. So we're pre-filling their email, their phone, their name, and also their client ID, so they can be identified in ONTRAPORT, to that scheduler. And therefore, they just go to the scheduler, they pick their time, everything's there for them already. We're making the process easy, trying to take as much of that sort of hardness out of the process, the steps out of the process as we can, and automating as much as we can, not just for us, but also for the client to make the experience as easy as possible. So we've got all those steps there that get automated. And let's just have a look here. So we've got the webhooks, different tasks get done. They move all the way down to the bottom. Now this campaign's actually got a couple of different triggers. And how these triggers are set up is that the contact will enter this campaign multiple times. And they'll enter it at different times. So they first enter the campaign when their primary stage changes to sound bites, because this is a sound bites campaign. Then at the different times during this sequence, when different things happen, another instance of a contact will enter this campaign. So there'll actually be two instances of a contact when they schedule their design session. And then that contact will go down this particular thing, and they'll get all the different weights and messages for that. And but if they schedule an ordering session, then there'll be 3 instances. When Dad's call date is set, then there'll be 4, and so on and so forth. And each of these will run their process until it is complete. And then they exit and go to the next workflow. So this really works quite well for the client. They've automated as much as we can possibly automate for their business using ONTRAPORT. And we're pre-filling things. We're doing a whole heap of really awesome stuff using all the features in ONTRAPORT. Now here, because we've got so many custom fields and things going on in the back end, we're trying to make it as easy for the end user as possible. So we've grouped all these different custom fields into sections in ONTRAPORT. And so now when the the client comes in here, they can go, oh, contact information. I've got the different names. I've got the name for mum, name for dad, name for all the children. I've got dad's email, mum's email, the home phone, dad's cell phone, mum's cell phone, the birthday. We might actually add in here birthdays for mum, dad, children, etc. And then we've got the address that will be pre-filled as well. Who this contact is being managed by, the sales manager. We've got all the dates that they've got set and times of these different events. We've got the different session dates, different session times. You can see it's a very involved process to get them to purchase something. We've also got all the links, and these are important because these are actually pre-fill links and links to, well, they start off as being a pre-filled link, and then once the form is submitted, so it's a link to a Gravity form that gets pre-filled with all their data from their ONTRAPORT file as much as possible. And then once that form is submitted, Zapier then replaces that pre-fill link in ONTRAPORT with the exact entry link. So we can then click on that link and go to the entry for that customer without having to sort of sift through Gravity forms and try and find it. We've just got the link right there that we can click, open it up when we're having the next call or whatever, the next step in the process. And so we've got that for all these different things like a booking plan, a shooting plan, a contract that gets signed, the questionnaire, all that gets linked up in there. And each of these are unique for the client. So it will actually be their signed agreement link that gets put in here. It will be their invite link that gets put in here. It will be their their questionnaire link that gets put in here. It's all very specific to the client. Then we've got a few other things that get put in as well. So we've been able to automate as much of this process, something that's a really complex process, about 20 steps, identifiable stages that this client has to getting the user from an initial call booked to getting them out the door of a product. And this is actually a photography business, so they're doing photos for families. There's maybe baby photos, there's family photos, there's graduation photos. And so this process, we've been able to make it adaptable for each of those different products using Gravity forms. And the Gravity forms have got different conditional logic on them, so that if it's for babies, then the form fields for babies show up instead of the form fields for families showing up. We've broken down the process into a couple of different calls. We've then got different campaigns, different workflows, and say Mindy or whoever talks to the client gets a payment on the phone, they can just move and drag and drop that user into here, and then that will move and update the contact in the campaign as well, and then they'll start the needs to schedule. So everything is just as simple as can be for the business owner, for the client to manage their business. And that's really the power of ONTRAPORT. We've also got all the sales pages and tasks and deals and everything set up as well. So if you are looking at using ONTRAPORT for your business, I'd love to work with you. I'd love to brainstorm different ways that we can use ONTRAPORT for your business, show you some alternatives for say some workarounds that you might be stuck on, like the SMS, the text marketing feature that Mindy was having trouble with, or the form capabilities of ONTRAPORT, which are very limited, and how we can get around that using something like Gravity Forms for WordPress, or using different opt-in techniques, and just using ONTRAPORT as your main CRM, using what's good in ONTRAPORT and what's good enough for what you need in ONTRAPORT, and then using other things to plug into it via Zapier and other sources via API, webhooks, etc. I'd love to brainstorm that with you, whether it's a small project or a big project, or even something more complex than this one, which was a real head scratcher at times. So if you are looking at using ONTRAPORT, I'd love for you to schedule a call, and I look forward to meeting you.